Hi, welcome back to Empowered. I'm your host, Kelly, and I just wanted to say thank you for everybody that tuned in last week. I got a lot of nice, sweet messages and calls, and people just kind of words of encouragement. So I did want to just say thank you for all of that. I really do appreciate it, and just obviously continue to let me know if there's anything that I can do better, and I just appreciate all the feedback as well. But today I wanted to talk about relationships or broken, fractured relationships. I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there that has personally gone through, walked through, or dealt with some fractured relationships, whether it be romantically or maybe, romantically meaning boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. It could be sibling relationships that are fractured, or it could even be parent, child, or, and so kind of keeping in theme with doing hard things. That topic of broken, fractured relationships is right in there with it. And so I kind of alluded to a strained relationship of mine with one of my children a couple of weeks ago when both Tatiana and I were here talking. And so I kind of wanted to share a little bit about that relationship, about basically set the scene for you and give you a little bit of backstory on that. It is something that I'm still to this day working through. We're walking towards resolution. We're walking toward mending that relationship. But it's work. All relationships, really, truthfully, I've learned in my life that they are work. They're always going to be work, but the ones that you value, you're going to be willing to do the work, or you should anyways. And so with the relationship that is fractured for me, it is with one of my sons. All my children are grown, so one of my grown sons, and it's basically a disagreement. About a year and a half ago, he and his now wife, because they weren't married at the time, they were boyfriend and girlfriend, and then they quickly became engaged. Well, they had moved out of their apartment, moved in with her parents, and were trying to save for their first home. And so me, just being their mom or his mom, I just wanted to help my son. And I thought I was being helpful in offering to let him rent my house. And so it quickly turned left. It quickly went bad. And so hindsight 2020, I probably should have never said that or spoke on it without praying about it first. I do believe I had good intentions. My heart was in the right place, but I hadn't consulted God first before I just offered that up, because it would have uprooted me from living there. I was going to allow them to live there and rent my house. And I have had people in my life talk about never do business with family, never any kind of business. And obviously that kind of would have basically went under the guise of business, because they would have rented it from me. I wasn't going to give them my house or let them stay there with me. I was willing to move and get my own place by myself, which, little backstory here, or insight maybe you do or don't want to know, but in my 48 years of life, I have never lived by myself. I've always lived. I went from living with my sister and brother-in-law, my mom. I lived with them when I was a teenager and took care of my niece, but then lived with my mom, and then lived with my ex-husband, and then our kids. And so I have never lived on my own. So in doing the whole rental for my son, I planned on getting my own place all by myself, and just was looking forward to that. But like I said, it quickly went left, and there was arguments, there were disagreements, there were hurt feelings, people acting out of anger and emotion. And so, I felt disrespected. I was disrespected by my son. And there is where we kind of, the fracture began, right? And so I took the rental off the table, and now they obviously have their first home. They were able to do that this whole time while we haven't been really in communication. This basically, it's almost been a year. I think it would have been a year here this month, November. So he has bought their first home, and their life has gone on. They were blessed with what they have now, and so I do believe God works things out for their good. But it was just a really tough lesson for me to learn, and I'm sure he's learned a little bit from it as well. But when it first happened, obviously I'm his mom, and so I want us to be good. I want him to know that he could not be disrespectful, and the words or his actions towards me were hurtful. And then B, that we have to come back together. We both need to apologize and make amends so that we can have healthy relationships. And I think in the beginning, as much as I wanted that, as much as I kind of pushed for it, it didn't happen. And so I had to pray about it. I had to give it to God and let him do the work behind the scenes. And so pretty much for the big chunk of this year that we haven't had, visits or conversations on the phone or texting, missed holidays, birthdays, things like that. I've just been praying and giving it to God. And I know that he's been working not only in my heart, but in my son as well. And so 2-3 weeks ago when I went over there to see Mia, because all this time I haven't been able to see her. And, I've been there since she was born. And so for me it's a piece of my loved one, not in my life. It is hurtful. And I know it has to hurt her too. And so I don't want that for her. But I'll do anything for my kids. So I went and visited, spent probably 3 hours there, just hanging out with her, playing with her, doing whatever Mia wanted to do. And then I left. And before I left, I just said, maybe next time I can come and we can go to the park, or because their new neighborhood that they live in, they have a little community pool and a community park, things like that. So, and then left, and I believe I reached out to him a day or so later, or maybe that evening. I can't remember exactly, but just said, thank you for letting me see her. And I love you. Communicated all those things. But then life happens, and I'm working and taking care of kids and all the things that I do on a daily basis. And so he reached out to me probably a week ago and just asked, when are you going to see Mia again? And so I had to, explain to him things that were going on. At that time, I think I was working out of town for that week. And then this past week, I stayed with my niece or her 2 little ones, my Nayeli and Miko, and took care of them. And so I wouldn't probably be able to see her until this weekend that just passed. And he was okay with that. And I was there with my niece and Miko and Nayeli, and her new baby came home on Saturday. So I let them have their house back, and I went back to my house. And Sunday, I'm going about my day, and I happen to be in the area not too far away from where my son now lives in his new house. And the thought in my head was, I'm so close to them right now. I'll just go over there and see if they're home and see if I can see Mia really quickly. And then go about my day, because obviously we hadn't planned on me being there Sunday at a given time. And I try to be respectful of other people's times or their time and their schedule. So I just knew, if they're not there, I did pray about this. I didn't pray prior to that thought popping in my head, but I did pray as I'm driving there. If they don't answer, or their car's not there in the driveway, then, God didn't intend for me to go and have a visit with her that day. Or possibly Mia could have been at her other grandparents' house, And so maybe I was praying all these things on the 2-3 minute drive to get to my son's house. And then I got there, rang the bell, and he came on the Ring camera and just said, "Hey, Mom," and, told me, let me get dressed. And then he came and answered the door. And so I went in and saw Mia for just a little bit. She immediately took me to her room so I could go and play with her again like I had a couple of weeks ago. And then I hear them saying, "Hey, Mia, you want to bring Nona to the living room? Have her come back here, come back in the living room." I wasn't quite sure what that was about. And so, a minute or so later, we went into the living room and they're hand her the phone, but give it to her and tell her, "Show this to your Nona, show this to your Nona." And so I'm not sure what she's trying to show me, but I'm looking at it really quickly, and she's into Minnie Mouse. So it was pink and Minnie Mouse on it. And so I'm trying to read it while she's like, "Here, look." And then they're saying, it's her invitation and she wants to invite you to her party this Saturday, which I knew that they were having a birthday party, and he had communicated to one of his other family members that he's really not inviting a lot of his family, because in the disagreement, in the argument that we had, his siblings have got involved, or he felt like they were taking sides, and other family members. And so he's kind of done about a year ago, he did a very distinct line in the sand, if you will. And so I knew of the party, but didn't think that I would get an invitation. And yes, it is hurtful, but at the end of the day, I'm her Nona. He's my son. There is nothing he can do that can take my love for him away or for her. And so I'm going to be here. So I missed the 4th birthday, but I'll be there for the 5th or 6th, God willing, right? And so, I understood what they were doing. That was them trying to be the bigger person and do a kind gesture. And so that, just them inviting me, obviously I sat down, and then we had that ensued basically a 3-hour conversation of kind of, going back to what started the argument or the fracture, I guess, because up until then we've always been really, I feel like, and he may say differently, but very close. My kids know that they can come to me for anything. Am I perfect? No. But they know that I love them more than anything in this world, and that never my intention, whether we have a disagreement or not, my intentions are never to harm them or to hurt them in any way. So we have this conversation, which, for a good part of it, did not go very good. It wasn't looking good, Voices were raised. I think they voiced their opinions and issues with what happened, and not wanting to go back in the past. And I voiced what I felt like God saying needs to be brought to the light, and then also be resolved. And for me, the life where I'm at in my life right now, I am trying to give each person a second chance and be forgiving, right? Forgiveness is everything. If I can't forgive, then how can I expect to be forgiven? But I will say that in the forgiveness, it's hard. It's easier to say, "I'm sorry," or "I forgive you." Those two words really are action words. You have to show that you're truly sorry, and that looks like changed behavior. That looks like, holding yourself accountable when you have done something that requires an apology. And then forgiveness, it's a daily, sometimes hourly or minute by minute, because things will happen. The offense will happen again, or things will happen that trigger the unforgiveness. And so you have to continually walk in that, right? But the whole issue was miscommunication, on probably somewhat on my part, and then as well on their end, not comprehending what exactly the deal was as far as renting my house. I was never going to give them a house, but here nor there. That's just the basically the object or the thing that caused us to have this rift, this fracture in our relationship, right? But I did tell my son and his now wife, like, I am guarded, not so much with my son, because there's nothing that he can do that can take that love away, nor with Mia. I mean, she's an innocent child in all of this. She's the one being hurt by this because she's not getting to spend time not only with me, but other family members that do love her and that she has spent time with and she enjoys spending time with, right? And I know my son is being hurt because he did vocalize feeling like he knows I love him. He knows his siblings love him. He knows his dad loves him, but he feels unloved by how he feels he's been treated. He feels alone. He feels like he's not being seen or heard or valued, right? And so as a parent or as a mom, like, that breaks my heart. And so what I did say, the guardedness is with his now wife, because she is not my child. I did not give birth to her. So the love there is a little differently. And I guess that in all of this happening, it fractured not just my relationship with him, but also some relationships with her. But ultimate goal is we want to show each other love. We all want Mia to grow up and know that she's loved and that she's important to all of us, not just one side of the family, but her whole family. And so I do know that what we do now matters because she's watching. All of the kids are, not just Mia, but Roman, Josiah, Miko, Nayeli, and now Gavin and Dominic. They're all watching us. They're watching to see how we deal with anger, how we deal with when we don't get our way, or how we react when we don't get our way, how we deal with conflict and conflict resolution, right? And so that looks like saying you're sorry, sometimes more than once. That looks like forgiving, that looks like taking some time, stepping back, and then coming together and having a conversation where everybody is calm, where everybody's had some time to think about things and calm down and not just be ruled by your emotions or say things out of anger. And I think it's easier said than done, because me as a mom, he's my child. I want to fix this because I don't want a day to go by that I don't get to see him or hear his voice or get a text from him, because we don't know how much time we have. And so for me, I was trying to fix it, right? In probably my own strength. But God was saying, give it to me and let me fix it. Let me work on all parties involved. And then we can bring y'all back together. Is it 100% better? No. Are we walking through it? I absolutely am on a day-to-day basis. And I have been very transparent and tried to, communicate to them that, my feelings were hurt. Disrespect is not allowed. And then what do you need from me? What does my son need from me so that he doesn't feel alone, so that he doesn't feel unloved, even though he knows that he's loved, but he feels unloved. And so I had to ask that question and be okay with whatever his response was. But I will tell you that he probably learned the whole draw the line, or his words were, he's setting boundaries and he's cutting people off, and he's only going to work on relationships that he feels like working on right now. And he probably did learn that from me. I'll be 100% transparent and honest that I have had problems with siblings of mine in the past, and I have a sister now that we're not close. When I was married, she did used to call me and dump all her stuff on me, and it was not good for me, for my mental health, my well-being. And then also, was the same sister that I took care of her daughter. And so some of the things that we had issue with is how she treated her own child, right? But I've forgiven, I've given it to God, and we're just not close, and I'm okay with that. But I do understand that my son has seen that in me and how I deal with, I guess it's really conflict for that, for me anyways, of why I've cut people off. I've cut people off because either you've hurt me, or you in some way you've don't bring, there's negative or there's drama, and that doesn't bring value to my life. So I've cut those relationships off. But I do know that now in this season of my life, God doesn't want me doing that anymore. And I even told my son, I kind of just mentioned to him that a few years ago, the last time that I was in counseling, because I've been in counseling over my life, my adult life anyways, probably a handful, maybe 5 or 6 times. And the last time that I was in counseling, it was for some of those reasons. God was just kind of laying on my heart, like, this can't be how you deal with conflict. You can't continue to just cut people off or cut relationships off, because one day it may be one of your children, and are you going to cut them off? And of course, that got me in counseling, because I never want to cut one of my kids off. And then everything played out the way it did. And it looked like my son trying to cut me or cut his siblings and his father and other family members off, to protect. He says boundaries, but I know he feels like he needs to protect his peace in that situation. And so I'm still praying and prayerful that we'll all be able to come back to a better place. But reality is that all families go through this. I mean, everyone goes through this, like I said, whether it be a romantic relationship or a family relationship. Sometimes it looks like a friendship that, you've been friends forever, childhood friend, and you thought that y'all were going to be friends forever, and then something happens and there's a disagreement or something that one party feels like you can't come back from. And in no way am I saying that everything has to be, obviously you do have to forgive, even if someone has hurt you and been intentional or abusive in their hurt. But I'm not saying that relationship requires you going back and trying to repair it if the other party is still being abusive or isn't willing to work towards a resolution. And in this instant with my son, I'm never going to not try to have a relationship with him or with Mia. And with his wife, like I said, I was very honest and forthright that I'm guarded with her. And her and I, it's going to take work because she isn't my child. And something my son said, which was very profound and true, is that she didn't marry his family and vice versa. And so in saying that, he has to understand that his family did not marry her. And so expecting everyone to just get along because this is now your mate is, it's probably not always going to work out that way. But I know that if we keep giving it to God, I have faith, then I trust that He can work things out for our good, His glory. And one day we may, look back on this time, this year, and laugh at it. But until that day, we just have to continue to be good to each other. And for me, if I'm going to hold myself accountable, I'm going to hold other people around me accountable. And that's kind of where not the argument, but the conversation on Sunday, where it got a little bit heated because they felt like going back to where the argument started, where the disagreement started, and me saying, well, this is what was said, and that's not true. These are untruths. This is untrue. And then also saying, like, are you going to apologize for the things that you said or did? I apologize for my part. I know where she and I got off course was because prior to this, I had her back. I defended her on many occasions against a lot of people in the family that for whatever reason, just sometimes people just don't like you because it's you. There's no other reason than personalities kind of clash, or sometimes they feel like you have done something that they're not okay with, right? And in life, I've just learned, and maybe this is just a me thing, but I've just learned that not everybody is for me. Not everyone's going to like me. And I'm okay with that. But I do think that comes with some age and maybe some maturity. So what we were talking on Sunday, and I was saying, are you going to apologize for these things? I'm going to hold you accountable if, this is going to work, because I do not believe that to have healthy relationships that everyone has to agree with what you say or co-sign poor behavior or ugliness or dishonesty. I don't want any part of that relationship because it's not healthy. And so, yes, I'm your mom, but I'm not always going to agree with what you say or do. And that's okay. I still love you, but I'm not going to agree with exactly everything that you say or do. And sometimes I may vocalize that. Other times, it's not that big of a deal. I'm just going, you don't need to call me and tell me about, X, Y, or Z, or ask for my advice. Because I think they did say that. Well, unless we ask you for advice, we're just calling you. But if I pick up the phone and I ask you, hey, Mom, what would you do in this instance? Or can you give me advice on that? Then don't give me advice. Okay, well, then I'm probably not the person to call just to vent if it goes against something, that against your integrity, or if it's going to be harmful to you or to another person, right? And that wasn't said on Sunday, but basically where I said, I'm going to hold you accountable. I think in a romantic relationship, husbands and wives need to, I say, check each other, but it's accountability, right? You're not always going to have the same opinion or think exactly alike, and that's okay. When I was married, I promise you, I thought that that's the way it was supposed to be, that I was supposed to believe and think everything that he said and thought. I was supposed to be in agreement. And if not, oh my gosh, are we supposed to be together? And no, that was very naive of me, and then probably really immature for me to think that that's how it works, right? So that's pretty much where I was in the conversation on Sunday, is you two do not have anyone in your life holding you accountable. And I think you need that. It isn't always nice to hear. It doesn't feel good, but you need people to hold you accountable and basically check you. So, but the end of the conversation, we got to a good place of understanding. And like I said, I apologize for my part in it. Like I said, I miscommunicated with them, obviously, and they did not understand what exactly I was offering. And then also maybe my quick to remove whatever I had offered off the table, made them feel, hurt, embarrassed, offended, all those things. And I do believe with my son, that is what has kept him from trying to come back together sooner, is the offense, the anger at the whole situation, being angry at the whole situation, and the offense that he took, right? And maybe a little bit of embarrassment because they had told family, they had told friends, they were kind of planning towards moving into my house, which his house that he grew up in, right? And so I apologize for that part, that I played in that. And then also with her and I, there was some things said on social media, and my gut reaction was to respond. But I felt the Holy Spirit say, no, you let me deal with her. And so in order for me to not come out of character and not be ugly or lash out, I knew that I needed to remove her from my social media. So I did. And in doing that offended her, that hurt her feelings, made her feel some type of way. And so I apologize for that, because generally I was not trying to do anything to her. I was trying to hold myself accountable, make sure that I didn't retaliate, or I don't even know if retaliate is the right word, but like act out of character is basically what I felt. And when I say check or act out of character, that's just kind of how I talk. And so I'm trying to be as genuinely me as possible when I talk, and I talk with my hands too. So sorry. The people that know me know this about me, so I apologize for that. And then I think when we humble ourselves and we are willing to apologize and be honest and be very open with wanting to resolve the issue, but we just need to make sure that, or however we're feeling, that we communicate better. I read something this week, and I've heard it before, but it was saying, argue well. Not that you want to argue with people, but I screenshotted it because I've heard this before, and I was like, that's exactly true. So in an argument, it says, argue well. It's incredibly important to remember that in any argument, it's not you against the other person. It's you and the other person against the issue, whatever that may be. If it's husband and wife, it's not you against your husband. It is you and your husband against whatever issue that y'all are having a disagreement about. And so I was just like, it reminded me of that. Obviously, I don't want to argue with any of the kids or anyone. Truth be told, I do not like confrontation. I don't. But I know that I need to sometimes to have some confrontation or have some maybe opposition, and then like help in a healthy way walk through it and get to the other side of it, or get to resolution, right? And so I'm doing my best because of the fact I value this relationship. I love my son. I love Mia. I want to get to a good place with his wife. And then also I know that all these little ones, they're watching. They're like sponges and they're soaking it all up. And so they will either do exactly what we've done, what they've watched us do, or they will do a sharp right turn and do the opposite. But the best thing, the healthiest thing for us to do is to do these things right, so that they have a healthy foundation. They have a healthy foundation to build upon. And then when they grow up and they're older, that when they have arguments, when they have disagreements, they're able to resolve it with as little as offense or trauma, bad things happening or time missed, right? And so I'm willing to do those things where maybe in the past I might not have been. And so why I said it's in theme or on theme of doing hard things, like that was an easy thing for me to have to face, or that I really even wanted to face. Perfect world, we just would come back together, and it would be nobody's upset anymore. He just, hey mom, comes by my house, rings the doorbell, and just wants to come and visit with me, right? But he still has some probably unforgiveness in his heart, and he definitely still has some offense, and then he has some feelings of not being valued, not being seen, not being loved. And honestly, guys and their emotions, 9 times out of 10, it comes out in anger and aggression. I know that being a mom of boys, that's even behind the anger, behind the aggression, behind the disrespect is hurt feelings. And so I'm willing to do the work because I want better relationships, not just with him, but with all of, everyone that is in my circle and in my life, right? And again, this week, watching a sermon that I happened to be watching yesterday, and I haven't watched her in a while. I love her, but Joyce Myers, I just haven't watched her. I don't know why. There's no real reason. But she had said on there, the anointing that we have on our life is because of the hard things that we have to do. If this life was supposed to be easy, we wouldn't need the anointing, right? And that, like, truly, it resonated with me, because I feel like that's what God keeps saying over and over and over lately, and probably in the last month or and a half, is hard things will continue to come up. And the hard things that I talked about last week, I didn't even realize really that they were hard. I just did them because I knew that that's what I was, I had to do these things, obviously. And so he's kind of bringing it, even amplifying it, and saying, I'm going to continue to ask you to do hard things. And what we go through, me going through hard things, difficult things, hurtful things, not just for my good, but for the good of others. It's like school, right? We're in school, we're in session. And it's going to qualify me to come alongside the next person who is dealing with that. It's going to qualify my son, right? Because one day he may be dealing with that he has a daughter, right? She gets married, she has a boyfriend, or she has friends in school, prior to her I'm just thinking way down the line, but one day, she has friends and they're the best of friends, and then all of a sudden they're not anymore. What does that look like to his daughter? Maybe she's on the receiving end of somebody not wanting to have a relationship with her anymore, and they've just cut her off. He's going to have to walk through that with her, right? Or his wife. So I just know that all the things that we're dealing with right now, our family in general, it's not just for our good, but for the good of others. And so, not that I'm excited to do those things, but I know that he's doing a work in us, and I'm okay with that. And I'll do it happily, because at the end of this, I'm going to have a healed relationship with my son. And that's really all that I want, for all my kids to have good, healthy relationships, and to walk through the hard things knowing that they're not alone. And so, yeah, that's kind of everything that went on this week. Like I said, we're not a perfect family. We're not all the way there 100%, but we're making strides. We're doing the hard work, and even his wife reached out to me later, I think that evening or the day after, and I am going to go to the party this Saturday. He invited a couple of his siblings as well, and so I think some of them will be there, and I know that's them making a step towards reconciliation. That was them doing what they felt like was hard for them. That was them kind of, I guess, if you will, extending an olive branch. And so I'm happy for the party and to be able to see her. And I know she's going to just have all kinds of friends and fun. She, like I said, she's into Minnie Mouse, so it'll be all Minnie Moused out. But yeah, relationships, not easy. They're always work, but they're worth the work that we have to put into it. It's so worth it. All relationships are, but definitely when you have one that has been broken and you feel like you wish that things hadn't been said or done, and you wish that you were in a better place. And so continually praying, continually forgiving, continually letting go of offense, and just working through those things so that we can get to that better place. I hope that this has helped somebody. I hope that everyone listening just knows that you're not alone in any of the brokenness, whether, like I said, whether it be romantic, family, friendship. You're not alone. We all go through it. And so I really do pray that if you're dealing with that right now, that you just see a little glimpse of the light that is at the end of the tunnel, that the forgiveness, someone else's heart is being softened. I do hope that all of the brokenness is I keep seeing a vision almost like a broken pot, and I think it's like a Chinese proverb, if you will. I think something I had shared a long time ago on social media, but like a broken pot, and then it is being glued back together. But in the broken, cracked places, there's like this gold in the middle of it. And so that's what I keep seeing. And so I am, that makes me happy and smile to see it that way, that yes, there was some fractures, there were some broken parts of our relationship, but God is putting it back together, not necessarily me or him, but it's being put back together, and it's going to be made more beautiful than what it was before. So, anyways, thank you for watching. If you haven't by now, liked, share, subscribe, all the things, and I will see you next time.